The Heir's Reckoning. Part 2, The Ceremony. The Chen family estate's gardens had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. White roses cascaded from every arbor, crystal chandeliers hung from ancient oak trees, and a string quartet played softly as 300 of the most powerful people in Asian business took their seats. Sophia stood in the bridal suite's antechamber, her reflection staring back at her from the full-length mirror. The wedding dress was exquisite, French lace, hand-beaded with thousands of tiny pearls, a cathedral train that flowed behind her like water. In her previous life, she'd cried when she first put it on, overwhelmed by how beautiful it made her feel. Now, it felt like armor. "You look absolutely radiant," her mother said, adjusting the veil with trembling fingers. Catherine Chen had always been elegant and composed, but today her eyes were red-rimmed, her smile fragile. "Mom," Sophia said softly, catching her mother's hand. "Are you okay?" Catherine's composure cracked for just a moment. "I just wish," she stopped herself, shaking her head. "Never mind. I'm being silly. It's just hard to let you go." But that wasn't what she'd been about to say. Sophia remembered this moment from before, how she'd brushed past her mother's distress, too eager to get to the ceremony. She'd missed the warning signs completely. "What do you wish?" Sophia pressed gently. Her mother looked away. "I wish you'd waited a bit longer. You're so young, and Marcus," she hesitated. "He's charming, certainly, but sometimes I wonder if we really know him." "If you really know him." Sophia's heart clenched. "You don't trust him." "I didn't say that." "But you don't." Sophia kept her voice steady, non-accusatory. Catherine Chen had built an empire alongside her husband. She had instincts honed by decades of corporate warfare, and now those instincts were screaming. "Your father and I have been making some inquiries," her mother admitted quietly. "Nothing concrete, but there are rumors about the Sterling family's finances. They may not be as solvent as they appear. And there's talk that Marcus has been meeting privately with members of your board." "With James." There it was, the conspiracy her parents had sensed but couldn't prove. In her previous life, Sophia had laughed it off as pre-wedding paranoia. She'd assured them everything was fine, that they were worrying over nothing. She'd been so catastrophically wrong. "I appreciate you telling me," Sophia said, squeezing her mother's hand. "But I promise you, I know exactly what I'm doing." It wasn't a lie. Not anymore. A knock at the door announced her father's arrival. Richard Chen cut an imposing figure in his tuxedo, his silver hair perfectly styled, but his eyes held the same worry as his wife's. "It's time, Princess," he said, offering his arm. As Sophia took it, he leaned close and whispered, "It's not too late to change your mind. We can cancel everything right now. I don't care about the embarrassment or the business implications. If you have even a shadow of doubt." "I don't have doubts," Sophia said firmly. "I have certainty." Her father studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You've changed," he said quietly. "There's something different in your eyes today." "I grew up," Sophia replied. Finally. The music swelled as they stepped out onto the flower-lined aisle. 300 faces turned toward her, but Sophia only saw one. Marcus Sterling stood at the altar in a custom Tom Ford tuxedo, looking every inch the perfect groom. Tall, handsome, with dark hair and the kind of smile that had once made her heart race. Even now, knowing everything she knew, she could see why she'd fallen for him. He was a masterpiece of deception. Their eyes met across the distance, and his smile widened with what looked like genuine joy. In that moment, Sophia saw her death reflected in his eyes. He was already counting the days until the honeymoon, until the moment he could rid himself of the inconvenience of her continued existence. She smiled back, radiant and trusting. Let him think he'd won. As she walked down the aisle, Sophia's gaze swept over the assembled guests. She catalogued them all, separating allies from enemies with the wisdom of hindsight. There was Victoria in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, an Oscar-worthy performance. Her cousin James sat with the family section, his expression carefully neutral, but she caught the satisfied glint in his eyes. And there, 3 rows back, was someone she'd forgotten. David Park, her father's oldest friend, and the company's chief legal counsel. He was watching Marcus with unconcealed suspicion, his jaw tight. David had tried to warn her too, she remembered now. He'd requested a prenuptial agreement with unusual clauses that would protect her interests. Marcus had been offended, and Sophia had sided with her fiancé, eager to prove her love wasn't about money. Fool, she'd been such a fool. When she reached the altar, her father hesitated before placing her hand in Marcus. "Take care of her," Richard said, and it sounded more like a threat than a blessing. "With my life," Marcus replied smoothly. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so tragic. The ceremony proceeded like a dream, or a nightmare, depending on perspective. The officiant's words washed over her as Sophia maintained her serene smile, all while her mind raced through calculations and contingencies. She couldn't stop the wedding, not yet, but she could start planting seeds. When it came time for the vows, Sophia spoke hers with perfect sincerity, watching Marcus' eyes soften with what almost looked like guilt. Good. Let him feel it. Let him carry that weight. Then it was his turn. "Sophia," Marcus began, his voice warm and rich. "From the moment I met you, I knew you were extraordinary. Your intelligence, your compassion, your vision for the future, everything about you captivated me. I promise to stand by your side, to support your dreams, to build an empire with you that will last generations." The words were beautiful, the lies were flawless. "I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of my life," he concluded. All 6 hours of their marriage, Sophia thought bitterly. That's how long his promises had lasted. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared. "You may kiss the bride." Marcus pulled her close, his hand warm against her back, and kissed her with practiced tenderness. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Somewhere, Victoria was probably crying tears of joy over her betrayal. When they pulled apart, Sophia looked up at her new husband and whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "Till death do us part." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or recognition of the threat hidden in those traditional words. But then he smiled and tucked her hand into his arm, leading her back down the aisle as husband and wife. The reception was held in the estate's grand ballroom, a glittering affair of crystal and champagne. Sophia played her part perfectly, the blushing bride accepting congratulations and well wishes. She danced with her father, who held her too tight and whispered one last time, "It's not too late." "I know exactly what I'm doing, Dad," she assured him. "Trust me." When she danced with Marcus, he held her close and murmured against her hair, "You're so beautiful today. I'm the luckiest man alive." "Are you?" Sophia asked lightly. "I hope you remember that feeling." He pulled back to look at her, confusion crossing his face. "That's an odd thing to say." "Is it?" "I just mean that marriage is work. We should remember these happy moments when times get difficult." "Times won't get difficult," Marcus said confidently. "We're going to be perfect together." Over his shoulder, Sophia caught Victoria watching them, champagne glass raised in a private toast. Their eyes met, and Victoria winked. Sophia's smile never wavered, but she made a mental note. Victoria would be first, not because the betrayal hurt most, though it did, but because she was the company's CFO. She held the financial keys to everything. Taking her down would be strategic. As the evening wore on, Sophia excused herself to the powder room. She needed a moment to breathe, to center herself. But when she entered the hallway, she found David Park waiting. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "David, this is my wedding." "I know what this is," he cut her off, his voice low and urgent. "I also know something's wrong. I've been investigating the Sterling family, Sophia. Their company is drowning in debt. This merger isn't a partnership, it's a takeover. And the board meeting scheduled for next week. James called it. He's planning something." Sophia's pulse quickened. The board meeting. She'd forgotten about that. In her previous life, she'd been on her honeymoon when it happened. She'd returned to find herself voted out as CEO, replaced by a temporary board of directors that included Marcus, James, and Victoria. By the time she'd realized what was happening, it was too late. They'd systematically frozen her out of her own company, while she was still reeling from what she thought was a democratic business decision. "What kind of something?" she asked carefully. "I don't know yet, but I can delay it. I can buy you time." Sophia studied the older man's face. David Park had been loyal to her family for 30 years. He'd mentored her, taught her the intricacies of corporate law. In her previous life, he'd been one of the few who'd fought against her ouster, though she'd been too broken to appreciate it. "Don't delay it," Sophia said slowly. "Let it proceed exactly as planned." David's eyes widened. "Sophia, trust me," she said firmly. "Sometimes you have to let your enemies think they're winning. Let the meeting happen. But I need you to do something else for me." She pulled him further down the hallway, away from potential eavesdroppers, and began to outline her plan. As she spoke, David's expression shifted from concern to shock to something like admiration. "That's brilliant," he said when she finished. "Ruthless, but brilliant. When did you get so dangerous?" Sophia supplied. "Let's just say I've had a revelation about the nature of trust and betrayal. If this works." "It will work," Sophia interrupted. "It has to." She returned to the reception to find Marcus searching for her, a slight frown creasing his perfect features. "There you are," he said, relief coloring his voice. "I was beginning to worry." "Just needed a moment," Sophia said, slipping her hand into his. "It's overwhelming, isn't it? All these people, all this attention." "We can leave soon," Marcus said, lowering his voice. "Slip away to the bridal suite. Start our honeymoon a little early." The bridal suite where, in another timeline, he would kill her in just a few hours. "Actually," Sophia said, "I was thinking we should postpone the Maldives trip." Marcus went very still. "What? Just for a week or two? There's the board meeting, and I really should be there for it. We can leave right after." She watched emotions flicker across his face: alarm, frustration, calculation. The honeymoon timing was crucial to his plan. Isolated, far from help, somewhere an accident could be easily staged. "But everything's already arranged," he said, his smile strained. "The resort, the flights." "I know, and I'm sorry, but this is important. Surely you understand. You married a CEO, after all." Victoria appeared at Sophia's elbow, her timing suspiciously perfect. "What's this about postponing the honeymoon?" "Just by a week or two," Sophia said breezily. "The board meeting can happen without you," Victoria cut in, her smile tight. "It's nothing major, just routine approvals. You should go on your honeymoon, enjoy being newlyweds." "I'd really prefer to be there," Sophia insisted, watching both of them carefully. Marcus and Victoria exchanged a glance, and Sophia saw the panic in it. Their timeline was falling apart. If she was at the board meeting, she could vote, she could fight, she'd be surrounded by witnesses and lawyers. "Of course," Marcus finally said, his voice carefully controlled. "If it's important to you, we'll postpone whatever my wife wants." The word wife sounded like a curse. "Thank you for understanding," Sophia said, rising on her toes to kiss his cheek. "This is why I love you." As the reception continued around them, Sophia felt the shift in the air. Her enemies were regrouping, adjusting their plans. They'd try something else, she knew. Something faster, more desperate. Good, desperate people made mistakes. The night wore on, champagne flowed, and Sophia danced and laughed, and played the perfect bride. But beneath the surface, she was counting moves like a chess player, anticipating attacks, planning counters. When midnight finally came, and the reception ended, Marcus pulled her aside with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Shall we retire to the bridal suite, Mrs. Sterling?" The name felt like poison. In her previous life, she'd been so proud to take it. Now it made her skin crawl. "Actually," Sophia said, "I'm exhausted. Would you mind terribly if I stayed in my old room tonight? Just one last night as Sophia Chen, before I fully become Sophia Sterling." It was a reasonable request, sentimental, even, but Marcus' jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course," he said, "whatever you need." He kissed her goodnight at the base of the stairs, a lingering kiss that might have looked romantic to any observers. But Sophia felt the tension in his body, the frustration he was barely containing. As she climbed the stairs to her childhood bedroom, she felt his eyes on her back, watching, calculating, planning his next move. Let him plan. Let them all plot and scheme in the shadows. Because Sophia Chen had died once in darkness and ignorance. In her previous life, she'd been so proud to take it. Now it made her skin crawl. Actually, Sophia said, I'm exhausted. Would you mind terribly if I stayed in my old room tonight? Just one last night as Sophia Chen, before I fully become Sophia Sterling. It was a reasonable request, sentimental, even, but Marcus' jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, he said, whatever you need. He kissed her goodnight at the base of the stairs, a lingering kiss that might have looked romantic to any observers. But Sophia felt the tension in his body, the frustration he was barely containing. As she climbed the stairs to her childhood bedroom, she felt his eyes on her back, watching, calculating, planning his next move. Let him plan, let them all plot and scheme in the shadows. Because Sophia Chen had died once in darkness and ignorance, she would not die again. And before this was over, everyone who had betrayed her would learn what it meant to underestimate a woman with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge.